Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and today I've got some news out of the design development team, that sort of deal. And these changes, as y'all read the title, these changes would be really good, and are long overdue, to be honest, if the rest of the game wasn't busted as hell. So, what I'm talking about is Dark Surge, as well as Empower and Dark Pact. So that of course means this are getting a big nerf. So let's cover Empower and Dark Pact first, just because well, they've all been teased, but you know, these two are kind of cut from the same cloth. So as you can see, Empower, you take 250 moon damage and you gain 3 pips, which is pretty good, because for 1 pip, you know, right now what it'll do is it'll take off a universal weakness. So, yeah, pretty good, I would say. So, I mean, it is very good for gaining value whenever your opponent puts a weakness on you. So, that, it's been meta for a long time. People have been doing it since the spell got added, probably, that sort of deal. So, yeah. And then Dark Pact is the same, you know, 250 moon damage to yourself, and it'll give you 2 35% universal blades. So these two cards have become this. Yeah, so this, ultimately speaking, was very long overdue, and in a vacuum, this would be a very good change, because you know, you can't just empower off a weakness for, you know, 150 damage on yourself and then just, like, gain a bunch of pips and tempo off of it. It's like, and it's the same with Dark Pact, of course, but with this, what it's looking like is it's not going to take off weaknesses anymore. I would imagine that's how the spell is supposed to function. It'll just be that flat 5% of your health. So, like, 5% of 12,214, for example. Hold on a moment. 5% of 12214. 610.7, so that would round up to about 611 damage to my balance wizard every time I used this or this. So that's about a 400% increase for balance, and of course that number is much higher on the higher health schools. Ice, of course, is going to take a colossal hit from this. Not that we were really using Dark Pact, but Empower we have used a little bit. Life, of course, is going to take a bit of a hit, but they are the healing school, and if they really and truly don't go through with the heal cap, it's going to be a Jade Mana team, so that's what's going on with that. And like I said, these changes would be very good if the rest of the game wasn't busted. I feel like this shouldn't be their priority necessarily, but I feel like it's already... Alright, Empower and Dark Pact aren't really as glaring of an issue as what I'm about to talk about, which is Dark Surge. Now, this is going to be the new Dark Surge. I think this is a little ridiculous, personally. It is 10% of your health to gain one of your school pips and one of your weaving school pips. So it'll still give you 2 power pips. It's just that now you'll get a little bit more value out of it. So if I'm a balance and I'm weaving Storm, of course, then I could use that new Dark Surge and get, you know, a balance pip, a Storm pip, and I don't know, maybe an Ice pip out of it, just because that's what I set my pip to. And Balance's Weaving Life could also make good use out of this with, you know, you use it, you get a Balance pip, you get a Life pip, and then you get an Ice pip, and then all of a sudden you can just Surge, or Scales rather, out of a Surge. However, I'm not really expecting it to see much use just because the penalty is so high. 10% is a lot. That is 1,221 damage to my Balance Wizard right now, if I were to use the new Surge. So, that, I have long said that the addition of Dark Surge in fall of 2023 was one of the worst additions to PvP in a while because of how it's shaped the meta. But for them to just change it like this without really changing other parts of the game that sort of make it what it is, I feel like, again, this is a good nerf in a vacuum. But we don't exist in a vacuum. We exist in a world where there's busted stuff everywhere, and it's like I was saying, you know, it's you technically could, if you're a balance weaving life, you could technically surge into a scales, but you're just not really going to see it used a whole lot. And the issue right now, in my eyes, is that countering is very, very important. This involves things like countering damage overtimes, which of course are valued just immensely high. Like, you know, I've got Zillas in here. You know, this is my dot clear, and then dots themselves are also very highly valued. Where did I get all these fire blades and traps? I could not tell you for sure, but I mean, okay, I don't really have anything here on this character necessarily, but I do have, I guess Sunbird works just to show you. So dots are valued extremely high because, you know, things like Raging Bull are obviously very strong. It's a potent feint on 2 dots just for existing, and dots are just valued very, very highly. That's why Sunbird does over double the amount of its base hit if it's gambiting a dot. Like, they're valued exceedingly high, and being able to counter them while also putting up pressure out of it is important. And like, I'll say right now, if you're trying to counter a dot and you have your storm pips and you use, like, I don't know, the fire uses like the fires of Mars, you've got to hit them up with a Leviathan to get rid of all of their value. Of course, the B-Path Leviathan, that removes 3 dots. But with Surge kind of being out of the game, because I really doubt we're going to see it get used a whole lot by, you know, non-healing schools. Storm might make use of it still, I doubt, just because Storm is so fragile, but Life will definitely make use of it. But, I mean, being able to counter a dot and then put up pressure out of it is going to be much harder now. And, I mean, what we're inevitably going to see, I feel like, is we're going to see way more Aura Warring. I am already packing 18 auras. 18 auras. 10 positive, 8 negative on my balance. And that number would go up to 22 if I'm not running Dark Surge. So, I mean, probably not. I would... Well, what would I even throw in at that point? Because I got like Attenuate and Fortify, maybe? I don't know, maybe like Magnify or something, but I'd probably fill the slots with something else like Rainbow Serpent. But either way, Aura Warring is going to be the main way to get pips now. And, of course, you've got to like really preserve your pips. I do think that there is skill in using your pips wisely, but when somebody can just toss out a random move, like they just throw out, I don't know, a Krampus for 4 pips, and, you know, you've got to clear that with your Stormzilla for 5 pips, oftentimes 6, then, I mean, it's like pip trades become the new issue. And there's a lot of like bad pip interactions. It's like you're gonna have to sort of pick and choose which ones you want to counter. And so, I mean, it's gotten to a point in the game where it's like you need to be able to counter a lot of stuff really quickly and then keep your pressure up by surging out of it. Because if you, like, because your opponent can force you to give up pressure, and you won't be able to get it back too easily, and they will come away from it rather with a positive pip trade. And that ultimately is my big gripe with it. Again, in a vacuum, Dark Surge as a card really needs to be nerfed, but it is undeniable that the card really just sort of makes these bad pip trades not as you know, punishing. And of course, it's obviously got the flip side to it where, you know, like skillless players will just send a random dot and then it'll get countered by like a Toilet, and then they'll fight, or they'll Storm King Art, and then they'll Surge out of it, and then they'll Rain of Fire. There's a lot of that going on, and that is why I think a Surge nerf is a good thing, but at the same time, it's like, how are we going to counter dots and hots, which are still exceedingly overvalued. I pack 4 main deck Tritons and 2 Rainbow Serpents on my balance, and I mean, this is usually enough to deal with heals, but, you know, if I've got to, like, let's say, for example, I am going against a life, right, and I have 6 pips, all of them Storm pips, and I just, like, brought the Storm, or not the Storm, but the life down to about 2,000 health. So, you know, I'm doing pretty good. I've done 13,000 damage already because life just has that kind of health for some reason. So, the life sends a rebirth, which I need to counter, and I have the pips to counter it with this Triton. So I send it. It does about 1,600 damage, and the life wizard is on about 400 HP now, and they still have 1 heal overtime left over on their rebirth, by the way, so that's healing them up. But at that point, I don't have any effective way to kill. And if the life is still sitting on pips, who's to say they won't just heal again? And that's going to be an issue going forward. And of course, you know, pip management, that is going to matter a lot, but when it comes to, like, say for example, they do add the heal cap, which we're going to need to really push back hard on them, you know, not adding it. Like, it needs to get added for the game to be healthy, but, you know, it's like, say they do add the heal cap. Will we have to pick and choose which heals to counter depending on the circumstances of the game? Because, you know, if I'm going against a life, they toss out a Pigsy, you know, that is, what is it? 125 on the burst heal, which usually ends up being 300 to 400 just because of how outgoing boost and crit works, and then like 880, so close to 1,000 on the heals. It's like, that's a negative pip trade for me, and if they just keep doing it, and it's the same thing with cards like Sprite Swarm. What is inevitably going to happen, in my honest view, is that we're going to get to a point where, you know, it's all going to be back to overtimes, and it's just, countering them is going to become immensely harder. And with there being no good way to gain pips, quickly at least, then, I mean, it's just going to make countering these low value, like, the low value but high potential moves that people make, it's like that really does upend the meta. And that, I don't know, dude, I think because there's no real good way to go about it, because if Surge is good, then we go back to this whole thing where it's like, oh, you know, if you don't pull your Surges, you just straight up lose. But if Surge is bad, then overtimes become dominant again, and of course, you know, having to counter stuff and then not countering stuff and then losing immense amounts of value because you didn't counter stuff. It's like, it's a double-edged sword with Dark Surge. But I do think that nerfing Surge is a good move. They just need to nerf all this other stuff with it for the game to be healthy, and that's my honest take. I won't lie, I am excited for a meta without Dark Surge in it. Thank God, at long last. But it's gonna come at such a cost straight out of the update, and I know that's exactly what's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, if it becomes like 5% health, maybe that's a decent enough way to balance it, but even then, I mean, the disparagement between like high health schools and low health schools, like imagine a fire using Surge versus an ice. Like, the fire is going to take like 550 damage if they're running 11k health, that sort of deal. So, like, a fire will take 550 damage, but an ice will take, hold on, 5% of 13,461. That is how much that I run on my ice. And ice is going to be taking 673. And that just doesn't sit right with me. But, you know, at least it wouldn't be even worse than that. So for now, the main thing is, my overarching point here is Surge Nerf good, but timing bad. Exceedingly bad. Because they really need to address these overtimes on both damage and heal. And if they can do that, and get those into a balanced and more, you know, good state in terms of how they're valued, then the Surge Nerf will make more sense. And I think that that'll be good for the meta. So with that being said, thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm. My Discord is down in the description if you want to chat with me some more, and I will see y'all later.